Yeah, hi everybody. Oh, maybe my voice is changing. Good morning, although it might not be morning to you. So just hi everybody. Oh boy. I was thinking when I got up about how when I first went to my church where I am pastoring, they had every church in the area had done a survey. I forgot what it was called. It'll come to me at some point. Probably tomorrow morning. uh, and it was a survey that churches did, and it let you know kind of how your church rated in terms of engagement with each other, small groups, your spirituality. I've forgotten. It was about 20 different categories. And this particular church, South Church, rated like 28% on the scale, so 28th percentile of in terms of spirituality. And as I got to know these people, I'm thinking that can't possibly be true. These are some of the most spiritual people I've ever known. And so I spent about 3 months, I think, 3 or 4 months, working on just trying to define with them and give them examples through sermons and conversations and classes and Bible study and whatever else we were doing of, oh, that's a spiritual response, or, oh, that was really spiritual. Like when you're at a stoplight and you're talking with God, that's a spiritual moment. And so then I requested, I don't know if any other church ever did this, but I requested that we take it a second time. And all of a sudden, their rating on spirituality was like 96 instead of 28. And it proved the point that sometimes we don't name things. And if we don't name them, we can't know what they are, and we can't live into them as gifts that we have. And from then on, I think most people at South would say, yeah, well, we are a very spiritual congregation. And it changed the self-concept of the group just by a little educating and opening minds and talking about it and helping people to find the language for who they already are. So imagine my surprise, my glee, actually, because I like him as an author, when I learned that Rob Bell has a new book, Everything is Spiritual, Who We Are and What We're Doing Here. So I just want to read the first page or so to you. It's really very delightful. I've not read the whole thing yet, so I can't comment on the book. But this part really reminded me of what I went through with South. And then, of course, I'm going to ask you to apply it to your own life. All right, here's what he has to say. My grandma kept cash in her bra. I'd ask her for a 20 and she'd reach in there, pull out a wad and say, will a 10 and 2 5s do? When I was in high school in the mid-'80s, I used to visit her on her farm. We lived in Okemos, I think is how you say it, a suburb of Lansing, the state capital in the center of Michigan. I'd drive our Oldsmobile out into the country to her old brick farmhouse, which was surrounded by barns and pastures and fields. I'd park in the driveway, and then her dog, Gunner, would circle the car, peeing on all 4 tires. She'd often make dinner, and then afterward we'd sit on her porch in white wicker chairs. I remember the wind, how it would blow across the fields and in among the barns and move the chimes hanging from the eaves on that porch. Sometimes we'd talk, other times we'd sit for long periods of silence. I was in the tenuous space between being a boy and being a man, trying to sort out who I was and where I was headed, surrounded by all the dramas and insanities of high school. Everything around me was ranked. There were the best students and the best athletes and the coolest kids who got invited to all the right parties. Everywhere I turned, there was someone better, someone smarter, faster, more tuned in to those ambiguous codes that sort out who gets it and who doesn't. I lived with this perpetual ache that I was a half step behind, haunted by those questions. Do I have what it takes? Will I ever find my place? Am I good enough? But then I'd sit there in one of those wicker chairs, and those questions would temporarily fade, and I'd listen to that wind, and in those moments, in that place, everything was all right, even if it wasn't. I experienced a wordlessness there on that porch, a sublime state of grace in which the presence of another communicates a world of truth without any sentences or statements. Depending on where we are in our lives, we might not sense that space around us right now. I can tell you that many people in my circle are anxious about the election season. We're coming up on election day. I wanted to say the end of the election season, but it won't be because it takes time to count every ballot. The anxiety and the angst are present. COVID has us concerned. New York is doing pretty well, knock on wood, right now. But we still have to be cautious and careful. Some of you watching are living in hot spots where things are not going well. You have to be very careful and cautious. It's hard to think about sitting in a wicker chair on a Michigan farm in the middle of the summer, wind blowing, wind chimes singing, being there with someone you love, and just feeling like everything is okay. But I invite you to do that. I'm putting this online on a Friday. We have the weekend before us. I encourage you to do that, to take a few minutes and find that place where you feel warm and secure and loved. And maybe it's a place you inhabited or visited when you were a child or earlier in your life. Maybe it's a place you create. Either way, it can bring the same physiological results of calming us and keeping us centered, grounded in God's love. I have a couple of those places. I worked at a music festival for 18 summers, camping in the woods with thousands of women from around the world. That's a place I go. One time when I was in the early part of my career, I think in my 20s, and I was the camp director for the music camp that my family started, we would bring the staff, the counselors, together a week in advance to do counselor training. And in hindsight, I was beginning my move away from teaching music and into the helping professions in a different way. But this one time, I remember doing a guided meditation with the staff and just trying to get them. I mean, these were high-level musical performers who were learning how to guide other students, not much younger than they, some the same age. And how do you help young adults make that transition? And so I was doing this guided meditation, and I don't remember much about the meditation, except I was taking them into, a wooded area and a field, and just trying to help them physiologically change their responses to things so that they knew they could calm themselves if situations presented themselves to these guys. And all of a sudden, I've been talking about a lilac bush and describing it as part of the meditation, and what it smelled like, and you're getting closer to it. And I mean, I'm really getting into this. You've probably experienced guided meditations. You know what that's like. And that was toward the end of the meditation. And afterwards, when everybody was kind of back and calm and we're debriefing, one of the head counselors was sneezing and his eyes were red, and I mean, he was a mess. And I looked and I said, "David, are you all right? I mean, are you getting sick?" And he said, "No." He said, I'm allergic to lilacs. And I guess it worked. I thought I was there, and my body responded. And I have since read about that, but that to me was my introduction to how I can control how my body's going to feel and react. I can control its breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, all of that stuff through my mind. I'm not always good at it, and I haven't practiced it as much as some of my spiritual directors would have wished that I had. But I throw this out there because if you are one of the people who's feeling anxiety or fear or pending doom or chaos or uncertainty or confusion, go to a place, find a place, whether you're like Rob Bell sitting on his grandmother's porch, or you're like me in camping with thousands of women at a festival, or you are walking in the woods, or sitting in a library, or you are in a classroom, or you're sitting and chatting with a childhood friend, or you're with your parents, or you're climbing a solitary walk up a hill. Wherever it is, go there. Go there, because God is there. And we are given the gift of our memories so that we can be in those places, no matter where we are, no matter when we are. We can go back to those places. Please do that this weekend. Practice, because we may need to go there a lot in the next week or two. All right. Thanks for hanging in with the Prayerful Pause of the Pastor. If it's something you enjoy and you'd like to support this ministry, you can go to our website and there's a contribute button there, a donate button. I'm Pastor Deb Swift with South Presbyterian Church in Rochester, New York, and these moments are the ones that we carve out to think of something greater than ourselves, to be stimulated a little bit, to maybe think of, oh, I hadn't looked at it that way before. Okay? So I hope you have a wonderful few days. I'll be back with you again on Monday, and until then, God bless. Take care. Bye for now.